Hello everyone. So the next topic which we will be discussing here is about the function of the tubules. So before going towards the function of the tubules, we will first understand the nephrons. So nephrons, what are nephrons? Nephrons, they are the functional unit of kidneys that consist of a glomerulus, and it's associated with the tubules through which the glomerular filtrate passes before emerges as a urine. So in the nephrons, basically in the structure of the nephron structure has been divided into two parts. That is the renal tubule and the renal corpulus. So our main focus is about the tubules, the renal tubules and its functions. So let's start with the first slide, that what is nephron. So to get into the deep understanding of the function of the tubules and what are tubules, we have to first understand that what are nephrons. So a nephron is a basic structural and functional unit of a kidney. They are the microscopic structure which is composed of a renal corpulus and a renal tubule. So the word, the nephron, it was being derived from the Greek word, that is the nephrosis, which means kidney. There are about millions of nephrons in each human kidney. And if I talk about the structure of the nephron, then the mammalian nephron is a long tube-like structure, and its length varies from about 35 to 55 long. At one end, the tube is closed, folded and expanded into a double-walled, a cup-like structure which is called the Bowman's capsule or renal tubular capsule, which encloses the cluster of blood cells or blood vessels which is called the glomerulus. So this capsule and glomerulus consist of the renal corpulus. So first we will be discussing the structure of the nephron has been divided into two parts. And what are the two parts here? It is the renal tubule and the renal corpulus. So we will be discussing the renal tubule here. So the renal tubule is a long convoluted structure that emerges from the glomerulus, and it can be divided into three parts which are based on the function. So what are these three parts? These three parts are, the first part is the proximal convoluted tubule, which is due to its proximity to the glomerulus, and it stays in the renal cortex. So it will stay in the renal cortex, and this is the first part. If I talk about the second part is the loop of Henle or the nephretic loop, because it forms a loop that goes through the renal medulla. This is the second part. And if I talk about the third part, which is the part of a renal tubule, it is called the distal convoluted tubule. This is a restricted part of the renal cortex. So there are capillaries of the glomerulus which are enclosed by a capsule-like structure or cup-like structure, which is called as the Bowman's capsule. And this structure extends to form highly coiled tubules called the PCT. PCT, which is the proximal convoluted tubule, continues to form the loop of Henle, which ascends to DCT, which in turn opens into the collecting duct. So it will turn into the collecting duct. Now, what are the major functions of the renal tubule? So the major functions include the reabsorption and the process, which can be either the active transport or it can be the passive transport. In addition to these, there are secretions, various secretions by the tubules that will help in the urine formation without affecting the electrolyte balance of the body. So the secretions which are obtained from the tubules, they are involved in the urine formation. So the next we will be talking about is the next tubule, that is the proximal convoluted tubules. Now what is this tubule? So the blood which is brought by the renal artery, it is being filtered by the glomerulus and it is then passed to the PCT, that is the proximal convoluted tubule, and maximum reabsorption takes place in the PCT of the nephron. So what is PCT here? PCT is not just the area where the maximum reabsorption takes place in the nephron, but it is also the region of the renal tubule where reabsorption of essential substances just like glucose, proteins, amino acids, a major portion of electrolyte and water takes place. So the surface area for reabsorption is facilitated by the lining of the simple cuboidal epithelium in them. Reabsorption takes place at the expense of energy, that is the process is called the active. And PCT, it selectively secretes ions such as hydrogen, ammonia, potassium into the filtrate and absorbs HCO3 minus from it. So what it does, what are the functions of the PCT? The main function of the PCT is to maintain the electrolyte and the acid-base balance of the body fluid. So this is the main function of the proximal convoluted tubule. Now, if I talk about the another tubule here, that is the distal convoluted tubule. So this is the part which is the last part, as we have discussed in the previous slides also, that this is considered as the last part of the nephron, which connects and amplify its content into the collecting duct that line the medullary pyramids. Now the collecting ducts, they amass contents from multiple nephrons and they fuse together as they enter the papillae of the renal medulla. Similar to PCT, the DCT also secretes ions. So the main function of DCT here will be, it will also secrete ions such as hydrogen, potassium, NH3 into the filtrate while reabsorbing the HCO3 minus from the filtrate. So the conditional reabsorption of sodium ions and water takes place in the DCT, and it will also maintain the pH and the sodium potassium level in the blood cells. So this is the main function of the DCT. So this was all about the functions of the tubules. We have discussed all the three categories of tubules and all the functions that are involved in the tubule. So this was all about it. Thank you.